Hi, Randy.
Hi, Melanie. How are you today?
Well, I'm looking at these two verses and thinking, what?
Yeah, there's not a lot in it, but I suppose the important thing is the context, remembering what it comes after. Jesus has just said, um, take up your cross. The threats, the costs of being a Christian. And, if we do take up our cross, if we are faithful to him, then he talks about what the future holds.
Yeah, and it is a really good bit at the end of this chapter. It's a pity they didn't put it on the end of last week's reading, really, because
I was
you,
thinking that.
yeah, because you've had the cost, haven't you? It was like really
Yeah,
hard. Like it's going to be really bad, and there's going to be division, and you're going to have to take up your cross. You might have to die,
yeah,
which that's what take up your cross means, isn't it? It's not just a little bit of a bugbear you've got. It's like be willing to die for me.
yeah,
And then it just sort of ended. I mean, you did get about saving your life and losing your life, but here you've got reward as well.
yeah, yeah,
Reward. And that's
yeah.
really encouraging.
I mean, the thing that jumps out at me is just, or sort of an initial reading is just how much Jesus identifies with us. Anyone who welcomes you welcomes me, etc., etc. Just amazing, and anyone who welcomes me welcomes the one who sent me. So we're going out representing, in a way, Jesus representing the Father. And
Because he
that's
doesn't
who's,
just identify with his disciples, does he? Enough. He identifies himself with the Father. So you've got that whole chain of it. And we're
yeah,
being called really to be ambassadors, aren't we? That's what
exactly.
this is talking about. We're
Yeah,
going out representing God. Be sort of an ambassador is like represents the whole nation, doesn't it? In a different country. If you're an ambassador for the UK to the United States or whatever, you're in effect taking you are the United Kingdom, aren't you? Going there. And when we go out and serve Jesus, we are representing God. We are being God in that place.
that's right.
People do recognize that for positive and for negative, don't they? Because people, even if they don't know much about Christianity, tend to hold us up to a higher standard, don't they? You as a Christian shouldn't be saying that. Oh well.
Exactly. Yeah. And so people's expectations of us go up, and our behavior in public, and then of course we know that Jesus, God sees what goes on in private as well. You know, and there are certain things he doesn't expect of his disciples, his ambassadors, his representatives.
Yeah, so being an ambassador, it sounds glamorous, doesn't it? Because we think about like Ferrero Rocher and the ambassador's ball and all of that. And I expect
Do
being
you?
a worldly ambassador is a bit glamorous sometimes, but it also comes with great responsibility.
Yeah, you've got to represent your country, your ruler, faithfully and honestly with integrity.
Hmm. And of course, that's what God expects of us.
Yeah,
Absolutely, it is because we should be being like Jesus in the place where we're sent.
yeah, yeah,
But did you notice the slightly different roles going on here? There's
yeah,
not there's not a uniformity.
yeah. There's a variety, aren't there?
Hmm. So
So
you've got a
41.
prophet, you've got a
Yeah,
righteous person, you've got the little ones.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, so, and they're going to receive the reward for fulfilling what they're called to do.
But I've got a
And
little
you've got a
quote from,
quote.
yeah, not from JC Van. I've got a quote from this fella, this Augsburger, right? Because he made an important team. He was thinking about the different roles, and he says, "We are a team, and the supporting players are participants with the lead players. The church is a symphony rather than a series of solo recitals. We do together what no one person can do alone." And then he goes on to say, giving a cup of water in the name of a disciple means the simplest deed in discipleship of Christ will receive the Lord's recognition. So he looks at it as a whole. It's collectively we're doing the Lord's work, whether we're doing a small task or a big task. yet the reward comes for us all.
Yeah, yeah, which is great.
Which is really, really encouraging. And there's blessing there for the ones who are doing and for the ones who are welcoming, isn't there?
Yeah, and for everyone. And even you go right back, you go right towards the end of the passage down to 42. And, even the small, what seemingly is small, sort of seemingly is something taken for granted, seemingly given to those perhaps who don't, in many people's eyes, matter, what God can do with it. The least significant gift given to the least significant person, and it just shows how God is so gracious.
And he sees those things, those small acts of service. The 80-odd-year-old lady who goes in and cleans the church top to bottom that nobody else sees or recognizes. If she's doing it for Jesus,
Yeah,
then he sees it. If she's doing it for her own glory or for some joy of history, well, that's a little bit different. But if she's going in there serving the Lord, you know, with her aches and her pains and her weakness, you know, the Lord sees it and values that gift, even if nobody else sees it.
yeah,
And
yeah,
that's just so beautiful, isn't it? When you think about it, when you think about secular ideas of God, you know, God who's sort of up there and powerful and maybe either distant and watching or sort of there ready to zoom in when you get it wrong.
yeah,
The picture we've got of God is he's close, he identifies with us, and he sees even the small things.
yeah, and he's tremendously gracious.
Mm.
Truly, I tell you, that person will certainly not lose that reward, will receive a righteous person's reward, will receive a prophet's reward. Tremendous graciousness and giving of our Heavenly Father. And of course, it also reminds us, I think, that we can't outgive God.
Mm,
God is never in our debt. As much as we may like to think so, that's never the case. But God, you've got
absolutely.
another quote for us there, haven't you?
Well, I've got a quote from JC Ryle, of course, because he's always got something quotable. But he sort of finishes his section with a challenge, really. He says, let us ask ourselves in what light we regard Christ's work and Christ's cause in this world. Are we helpers of it or hinderers?
Mm,
Do we in any wise aid the Lord's prophets and righteous men? Do we assist his little ones? Do we impede his labourers or do we cheer them on? These are serious questions. They do well and wisely who give the cup of cold water whenever they have opportunity. They do better still who work actively in the Lord's vineyard. May we all strive to leave the world a better world than it was when we were born. This is to have the mind of Christ. This is to find out the value of the lessons this wonderful chapter contains.
yeah,
That's a good
yes,
question for church people, isn't it?
yeah, yeah,
Am I helping or hindering the Lord's work in this place?
yeah,
Because it may
and
be, sorry, I'll finish that new because it may be that the new vicar or somebody is doing something that you don't like. You might not like a new service or a new activity that's being done in the church. But that's irrelevant in one sense, whether you like it or not. It might not be your thing, but is this furthering the gospel? Is this doing the Lord's work? In which case, we mustn't hinder it. We
yeah,
must encourage it, even if it's not our thing, because it's God's work. It's our
yeah,
fiefdom.
yeah, quite right. And it's something we don't like to think about as well, isn't it? The thought that we could actually be hindering God's work, getting in the way of it.
Mm.
Frightening.
Yeah, and that's sometimes why we have to think twice before sending the email, isn't it? Or whatnot. Because
Yeah.
I've had a few situations myself this last week where I've been very tempted to rattle off an email filled with sort of righteous justice or whatever. But actually, is this going to help anything? Is this going to help the gospel in this area if I fire off a bunch of emails and get really cross about something? No, it's not, is it? It's going to hinder it because it'll create bad feeling, you
Yeah.
know, get over it and move on.
Yeah. 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 Yes, there's a lot in just a few verses.
Yeah, still, I wish it had been put on the end of the last week's reading rather than being one in itself. Because, of course, we've got to be careful when we preach it, that we do preach it in its context and that we don't make it a gospel
Yes.
of works.
Yes.
Yes.
Uh, Yeah, and a gospel of where we serve God for what we can get out of it. The idea of reward. I'll do
Yeah.
what God wants me to do so long as I get a reward.
Yeah. And that's not really what it's meant to be. It's meant to be you serve God because you love him and
Yeah.
because you're his. If you love me, you'll obey my commandments. We do it for love.
Yeah.
But then in his grace, God gives reward because he's a grace-filled, generous God.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's hard to get that balance right sometimes, isn't it, when you're teaching it? So it's something to be mindful of. This doesn't teach universalism.
Definitely not. Well, enjoy yourself preaching it.
Actually, I'm not going to be preaching it. I've got a
Dear.
family service, so I'm doing it on St. Peter since it's Peter Tide and the church is dedicated to St. Peter.
Well, that makes sense.
And I've got a patronal festival in the evening for a church that's dedicated to John the Baptist. So I'm going to be preaching on the Nativity of John the Baptist. So not preaching on this at all. Are you?
I am. Yes, I am. I will be.
Oh, there
Like,
we are. Have fun with that.
I'm sure I will.
Well, you can recap because if you're in a different place, were you in a different place from last week?
Yep.
So you can delve back into last week's reading because there's no guarantee that the person who was preaching last week actually preached on the passage, it being Father's Day and all.
Yep. Don't worry, I was going to do that.
It's good so you don't have to just preach on two verses.
No.
Oh yeah, well, enjoy.
Take care. Bye bye.
Bye.